Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Um, Let me check audio. Let's check audio first. Yes. And yes. Bastard. Sometimes my audio drops between videos and it just leads to bad results. I'll just say it that way. It leads to bad results. Guys, thank everyone for coming to the channel. I want to thank all the people who subscribe, um, who share my videos, who like my videos, who gets on patrons, who get super cash. You guys are awesome, and I appreciate it. Let me find this. One moment, I lost track of something. So my goal is to have one of these live streams. My goal is to have one of these live streams at least Monday through Friday, between 5 to 6. At some point, when I get extraordinarily good at it, probably at a specific time, probably at 5 o'clock. But between 5 to 6. And so this is what I'm going to have today. I had the awesome privilege of talking to St. Progressive earlier during the day, so that was going to be a video drop, or the main video drop. Just so happens she can do it at 5 p.m. So that video ended up going a little early, so I don't necessarily have something specific for today at 5. That being said, there is something I want to talk about. I'm going to get extraordinarily gloomy, so I apologize in advance. My content has been trending in a specific area recently, and I always ask myself this question: if you look at your body of work and you think of that body of work being this kind of impression of you, this catalog of you, are you happy or sad with it? Like, how do you feel about your body of work? If you're exposed to something, how do you feel about it? For all intents and purposes, I feel fine about it. There's some things that I don't necessarily like to do that I trend into when I feel like I need to do those things, as in discussing other content, like discussing other hosts or something that other hosts is doing that I'm like, oh, just biting into me because if it's innocuous, I don't care. If you're talking about, I don't know, if it's innocuous, I don't particularly care. If people have their channel, it's who they are. But when it gets larger than that, and when it gets to something I deem to be somewhat dangerous, then yeah, I care. I mean, at that point, it's like, and I know this is a conversation that's taking place on the left, and I know ultimately at the core of this conversation is whether the Democratic Party can be reformed, or whether those people need to go somewhere else. So fair enough. So I don't want to cast this kind of this kind of bad thing on the entire enterprise or enterprises. But man, I wish I was bigger than just saying, okay, well, these guys have their different opinions. Fuck all, and everybody go and have a beer. Not so much, because that particular opinion causes somewhat of a problem. It means, yes, we believe that we want to get certain things done, but yes, we believe that getting those things done is by doing the exact same things that we've always done for the past 20 years. You just need to put your energy and be radical and vote for Hillary Clinton. That's what you need to do. One of the main things that bugged the shit out of me when I heard it, and usually when I listen to a debate, I just say, okay, either I agree or disagree with what the person is saying. They can be somebody who I routinely disagree with, but ends up on some good points where I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. It just depends on the debate. How do those things align with my values? Saying that the United States using its armaments in a country to which it is in illegally and bombing another government's property in another government space, meaning military base, and saying that that's not a big deal. Oh, that bugs the shit out of me. It fails the Howard Zinn test. I call it the Howard Zinn test. And the Chomsky test, the Noam Chomsky test, same thing, same catalog, same sandbox. If it was me, how would I feel about X in this case? But in this case, how would I feel about another country bombing the shit out of my country? Even if it doesn't kill anybody, Doesn't matter. How would I feel about another country bombing my country, bombing the air bases of my country? It's essentially, you're slapping the shit out of my country. It's one country slapping the shit out of another country. And in this case, whether they killed anybody or not is kind of besides the point. I don't understand the perspective that looks at that and says, that's not that big of a deal. And argues that's not that big of a deal. Countries bomb countries sometimes. It is what it is. I was baffled by that. I was baffled by that. And I derisively call that Nerf bombing. That Cenk was calling it Nerf bombing. This is Nerf bombs. Not real bombs. They're not real bombs at all. And I keep asking the question, are those people who got killed by the United States? Some people are saying that some of those people were Russian. Were those Nerf bombs that killed those people also? We're in their country illegally, and this guy's making this comment about Nerf bombs. I want to show you what's taking place around the world. I don't take a position on this. Like, I look at these things that they tumble out an energy of their own. That at certain times, the forces themselves become larger than just the political parties involved. You're pushed by political winds to behave a particular way. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK, and I'll show the video in a minute, but Cuban Missile Crisis, JFK tries to kill Castro. CIA was trying to find ways to kill Castro. Castro doesn't like this because, of course, Castro does not want to be killed and murdered by the CIA or JFK or anybody else for that matter. He ends up getting in some relationship with the Soviet Union, with the idea that the Soviet Union is backing him. The Soviet Union puts missiles in Cuba. You have a missile crisis. Now, understand the wildness of this. Neighboring country, missiles in that neighboring country, the United States freaks out. And freaks out to the degree of, we will murder the world if you don't get those missiles out. We are going to have a nuclear war. This world is going to come to a fucking end. You need to get those missiles out of Cuba. That was the position of the United States. Massively indignant, mind you, since they tried to kill Castro. But that was the position of the United States. It was things that we were doing that was having a negative consequence because we believed that since we were doing them, everybody should be okay with those things. No, Castro didn't want to be killed. People don't like to be getting murdered. They don't like to get murdered. JFK is in this situation trying to figure out a way. How do we not murder the world? How do we not do that? How do we work our way in this? Let's do some kind of negotiation or anything else to get us out of this thicket because we are in a thicket. Those people thought that the world was going to come to a fucking end. Do you understand what I'm saying? At a certain point, it's not that Kennedy wanted to murder the world. It's not that Khrushchev wanted to murder the world. None of these people wanted to murder the world. But the political forces themselves were pushing these people to a particular position. Khrushchev, at one point, sends Kennedy a letter. And as they analyze the letter, it's like this panicked letter that the guy wrote. It's what they think this was Khrushchev. They don't know for certain, but they think it was Khrushchev himself saying, we need to get out of this. We don't want to murder the world. How the fuck do we get out of this? Then, I think it was a few hours later, they got another letter that was not that way. That was not this passive letter. It was this hard line, you guys can go fuck yourselves, etc., etc. Kennedy chose to take the first letter and ignore the second one. And use that as this kind of political thrust to try to weave a way out of that situation. I mean, mind you, they were blockading ships. Kennedy called the last president before him, I want to say it was Eisenhower, asking him, hey, do you think he's bluffing? Do you think Khrushchev will actually launch those missiles on the United States? Because he understood if they launched those missiles, we are in a nuclear war. There was no hedge. Everybody understood the situation to which it was. He told them no, he's not going to do it. He was wrong. Eisenhower was wrong. Those missiles were ready to go, and those missiles would have went. The moment that, if they made a move on Cuba, they were going to launch. They had already given the order. At least that's what Khrushchev had in his book. All I'm saying is, these things, at this point, they were going on a political force and a political wind of their own. It wasn't necessarily what the individual parties wanted who were in office. It was taking a political wind. The hardliners was going to be it. Your president is not going to have the capacity to back against something where the entire populace is like, oh my God, we got to kill those fuckers. And we're not going to take weakness in a leader who's supposed to be leading us. We're not going to accept weakness on this. They're thinking the same thing over there. They're people just like you with similar incentives and everything else, similar drives. We act as if they're not human beings. Like, that's always the thing that blows my mind. You act as if those people are not human beings. In every conflict that the United States gets in, we, for whatever reason, act as if those people are somehow different from us, less deserving of life and liberty than us. They were able to back away from the cliff in World War II. That's not always possible. And if you have certain point of views that is in the White House, and even certain point of views that are in other parts of government, it's not just us. Most of these governments function in similar fashion. The United States just does a fucking $1 trillion military. Do it better. But how do you think those things pan out? Like, do you honestly believe that 1 or 2 peaceniks are going to erupt in those particular situations? Or do you think the political winds of that system is going to disallow the individuals who are in charge to back away from the cliff? We've had world wars, so clearly there are times where these guys are not able to back away from the cliff. I guess my point is, I think we're on a precipice. And I don't think it's hyperbolic to say, look, there are things happening around the world that looks bad. It looks like people are drawing their lines. It looks like people are squaring up. It looks like countries are drawing their lines. So I could be wrong. Perhaps I am overly hyperbolic. If I am overly hyperbolic about it, it's because looking at history, it is clear to see that there are times where these guys, they fuck around. And what makes great internal politics, what makes horrible international politics. I mean, you end up with these situations with these right-wingers going after one another, fucking over the populace for their militaristic ends. I heard these guys give a briefing recently, and it was the intelligence community giving a briefing to the United States Congress, and ultimately it consisted essentially of the United States is being assailed on all corners, everywhere. Russia's out to get us, Iran is out to get us, North Korea is out to get us. North Korea is trying geopolitical influence in that region of the world. They're trying to draw a wedge between the United States and South Korea. I think the United States is drawing a wedge between the United States and South Korea. You're like a bad boyfriend that doesn't want to go the fuck away. Everybody is threatening us, essentially, is what the intelligence community was briefing the United States. We're assailed from all sides. Is that really the picture of the world? Honestly, I understand these people who are terrified of everything. Everybody's out to get us. Oh God, everybody's out to get us. We got to get big and strong, and we have to take these steroids. We have to have these big muscles to protect ourselves. I get it. It is the path of the coward. I get it. But do you honestly believe that we spend $1 trillion on the military? Do you honestly believe? It's almost like you're asking a hammer its point of view of the world. A hammer to everything. With a hammer, everything looks like a nail. You ask the intelligence community, hey, what's going on? There are threats everywhere. Everybody's out to get us. Everybody's out to get us. I'm going to show this video. The threats everywhere thing, I think, is bullshit. No, you're creating threats based on your own actions. It's like the bully not understanding why people hit back at the bully. Well, you're a fucking bully. But what's taking place geopolitically is real. And it's problematic if it keeps going on the way it's going. So, where's my mouse? All right. This is Democracy Now!
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez. Welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. We begin today's show with the ongoing war in Syria. Tensions across northern Syria are escalating sharply amidst a series of clashes between external and internal powers, including Israel, Iran, Turkey, Russia, and the Syrian government. On Saturday, Israel shot down what it says was an Iranian drone that had entered Israel's airspace after being launched from Syria. Israel then mounted an attack on an Iranian command center in Syria from where the drone was launched. One of the Israeli F-16 military jets was then downed by a Syrian government anti-aircraft missile. Saturday's event marks the first Israeli jet shot down since the 1980s. It is also believed to be the first time Israel has carried out an attack in Syria on a site where Iranian troops were present. On Tuesday, the Syrian government warned Israel it would face more surprises if it launches future attacks inside Syria. Meanwhile, also in northern Syria on Saturday, a Turkish army helicopter was shot down by U.S.-backed Syrian Kurdish YPG fighters near the Syrian Kurdish city of Afrin, where Turkey has launched a bombing and ground offensive. All this comes as the United Nations is warning of soaring levels of civilian casualties in Syria. This is UN High Commissioner for Human Rights spokesperson Elizabeth Throssell.
This has been a week of soaring violence and bloodshed in Syria. More than 1,000 civilian casualties.
Before they get too far off the point, I do want to point something out. Israel against Syria, Iran, and at this point, even Turkey has been brought into this mix. Because the United States is backing a force that's going against the Turkish government. Turkey considers those guys terrorists. The United States consider these guys, hey, these are people in the region we want to back. So, Syria, Iran, Turkey. Now, and North Korea to that. Now, if Israel gets into any conflict with either Syria or Iran, will the United States get involved in the conflict? And will they put the United States troops in regards to one of those conflicts? Also, beyond that point, if Israeli aircraft is shot down in Syria, or if Israel gets into some kind of conflict with Syria, knowing that Russia is allied with Syria, would they bring Russia into the conflict in a larger way, which would bring the United States into the conflict also? Or with the United States, I have a hard time believing that Israel will get into a conflict with the United States. We cannot get dragged into the conflict. And beyond that, you don't even need Israel in this mix. If the United States engages in Syria in a way that ends up hitting Russia in some material way, Russia is going to be forced to respond to this. No, Russia doesn't look at itself in a way that it would allow something like that to take place. That's all I'm saying. So right off the bat, in many of these cases, you can see these guys like drawing lines in the way that they're lining up. Yes, Israel will be with the United States. I would imagine the United States will, get some other sniveling nations. These nations that look on what's taking place, but pick their sides, just like every other. I have a hard time believing China is not engaged with Russia on this. I've seen those guys in, I think it was like Putin or in China's military parade or vice versa, one or the other, something like that. But definitely working in some level of coordination with one another on this. I have a hard time believing this doesn't escalate, or this does not have the possibility to escalate into something massive. That's the only point. That's the main point I'm trying to make on this. Take a look at what else is going on in Syria, because I have another point to make on this.
It is in 6 days. We've received reports that at least 277 civilians have been killed. 230 of these people were killed in airstrikes by the Syrian government and their allies. In addition, 812 people were injured.
The United Nations is warning civilians are being killed and wounded at a rapid pace amidst an escalation in the Syrian government bombing against the rebel-led enclave of eastern Ghouta, a suburb of Damascus. At least 200 civilians have reportedly been killed in the last week alone. Well, for more, we're joined by two guests. Anne Bernard is the New York Times bureau chief in Beirut, Lebanon. Her recent articles headlined, "Israel Strikes Iran and
President Obama was paying terrorists to go into that region of the world to keep that war going on. Now, whatever political strategy he was going with, I don't particularly care. We shouldn't have been there in the first place. But even with that, and we are guilty on multiple fronts on this. So in one case, Bush goes into a country, murders 1 million people, and destabilizes that part of the world. Those people go fleeing into other parts of the Middle East, and many of them giving seeds to ISIS. I mean, they were finding people who were part of the military ending up in ISIS. We are culpable in this. I mean, I don't think I'm crazy on this. We're culpable in the behaviors that we do and we prosecute around the globe the next president after that doesn't impeach that, or doesn't go after the president on this, meaning he doesn't go to prosecute. He doesn't have an investigation into the Iraq War. He doesn't have an investigation into torture. He's looking forward. We're not looking back. And all of the crimes that took place, all of those things essentially made the president bulletproof. If George Bush can start a war on a lie and kill 1 million people in the process, and he can just be out there finger painting, well, fuck, man. If you can't do that, if you can't impeach that, what can you impeach? That's like Mike Tyson biting somebody's ear off. And it's like, how are you not out of boxing at that point? How do you? It's like, what else? Like, what other transgression could a person do? Logically, could a person do? And still get off on it. And now they're trying to impeach Trump. My reason for them being impeaching Trump is one thing if you find something on him. But it's like, you let the last guy off on invading a country and killing 1 million people. That's mind-blowing. Fucking mind-blowing. But if you're going to take office right after that guy, that maniac, and you continue to use the powers, because presidents, like, they don't give the powers. Once they get a particular power, they're going to use that power. And one of those things, to literally pay terrorists to go into another region of the world to sow havoc and attack the actual government of that world. Now, I'm not saying Bashar al-Assad is a good guy. I don't particularly care. I'm saying we should have nothing to do. That's what I'm saying. I can give two shits about what Bashar al-Assad is. We should not have nothing to do with it. We should not put American blood and treasure into that particular prospect. We should have nothing to do with it. That's my point. That's my point. How long would this war have kept going if the United States is not giving resources to the terrorists in that region of the world? And if this is what's taking place, this carnage taking place year after year after year after year, if we were not there, honestly, think about it. If we were not there, would this war have been prosecuted in the way that it's been going? Meaning, would we have been feeding this particular thing with resources and I guess you could say support? We just killed 100 Syrians. The argument is, yes, we were in your country illegally, but you attacked us while we were in your country illegally. And so we were justified in killing many of your people, despite us being in your country illegally. So let it go for some more. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, we're doing things around the globe that is spreading misery around the globe. It is not Nerf bombs. When you bomb somebody, there is no such thing as a Nerf bomb. If you're bombing somebody or bombing something, you're destroying something. You're using armaments of the United States to destroy something. It would be like somebody punching another human being, but these cases have stakes, and they have large bombs and weapons. I don't like the perspective of the left on this, meaning it's so deranged and so mutated by the tragedy that is Donald Trump, that they've become these things that, I'll give you an example. It's weird to me to say, yes, I'm glad they got the thing on Carter Page. I'm glad they got the files that were on the Carter Page. But I am still against the surveillance state. So you're against the surveillance state in most cases, but not in the case of Carter Page. Doesn't matter what they had on that guy in order to come up with a warrant for the guy. No, we just dislike Donald Trump, so we like having this thing on Donald Trump. I'm saying, not to be mutated by the events around you. It's, for the most part, still put a stake in the ground on where your bias is. If this bias is from the standpoint of human life, then no, you're not supporting people who are giving armaments and weapons. What weapons are armaments? But giving resources to terrorists in the region of the world to try to destabilize another government. This war may have been over with years ago had we not contributed this particular thing in this particular heinous fashion to gain some kind of, I guess, leverage in that region of the world. And on another point, when I'm saying all of these countries being involved in some kind of conflict, this is what Trump, mind you. Like, one of the reasons that a lot of people voted for Trump, their thought was, both parties are fucked, I don't want anything to do with it. Democrats are liars, Republicans are only out for themselves and their donors. And Democrats are also out for their donors. This party, this system has fucked us over. I want no parts of this. At the very least, Trump is trying to be conciliatory. Meaning, at the very least, he's not a warmonger. Now, I thought this was comical because at the end of the day, he's running in the Republican Party. Um, but let me. How can I say it this way? I thought at the very least he'd be conciliatory towards Russia. Like, to some degree, I guess I believe some of the propaganda on this. I thought some of the stuff that he said has leaned more towards this idea of, look, no, he's not a nice guy talking about Putin, but hey, neither are we. We do bad shit all the time. That was the most honest thing I've ever heard Donald Trump say. And they blasted him for it. How dare you say this about America? How can you... What's with this guy saying nice things about Vladimir Putin? This guy's fucking commie. This guy's fucking commie. He's manipulated by Vladimir Putin. He's a Putin robot. Now, each and everything that Donald Trump does from the context of Syria, if Trump came out and said, you know what, it's not worth it. We don't need to be in Syria. The Russians got it. ISIS is almost over with. We're done. Let's call it a day. If you have some military base nearby, whatever. But we're calling the shit a day. We don't need to put ourselves in a line of getting into some kind of larger conflict with Russia. Good day and good night. Left-wing media will scream at the top of their lungs, oh my God, this guy is a Putin for Russia. And this is evidence and proof that he's a Putin for Russia because he's moving his troops out of Syria to keep us at a larger conflict. I'm trying to point it to the incentives that are built into the arguments that are being made here. You've heard me say on multiple times that these guys make arguments in order to kind of tar people in a particular behavior. We don't want you to do this behavior, so we're going to hit you on this particular behavior. So politicians and parties push back against that behavior, so it makes them, so Democrats get called weak, so they become more hawkish. You have this other thing where Democrats are tax spenders, so they try to push against that particular narrative as opposed to actually making an argument to justify the narrative. This works both ways. So Democrats, so you get Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton has a political, the political clout to pass NAFTA. He can do it, yeah. Republican, well, that's a little bit harder. Democrats have screamed that these guys are purely plutocrats and in it for the rich. So if he's trying to pass NAFTA, this guy's trying to fuck us over. He's trying to fuck over America. But a Democrat could do it. It's the push. Where are you pushing them? And I'm making the point that they're pushing him, Trump, in a way that makes these conflicts that much more dangerous. Because the incentives that are built into it, Trump needs to almost like flex against what they're pushing or what they're saying about him. And in this case, flexing against it is pushing us towards a larger conflict. It's making us more ensconced in Syria, or at the very least it gives an incentive to be more ensconced in Syria for the immediate political needs of the president in this case. If this was Hillary Clinton, now Hillary Clinton's plan was to put an air defense shield in Syria, that she wanted to put America in Syria to such a degree that she was going to put an air defense shield in Syria. That's amazing. Like, yes, we're ensconced in this fuckery, even with Donald Trump. But with Hillary, it would have been worse. It would have been worse. It would have been far worse. I've heard people make these arguments about, hey man, shouldn't you have voted for Hillary because of DACA? I mean, fuck man, Donald Trump is kicking people out the country. Obama only kicked 3 million people out of the country. I mean, is Trump going to do it? That argument goes both ways. I can also say, man, if that was Hillary in this mythical scenario that's being put forth, seeing as that's what she wanted to do early on, to put this kind of American power in that region of the world and more ensconced space, then it is easy to just make that logical step to say that we would have been in this situation that much sooner in regards to a world conflict or multiple powers drawing their lines in regards to this kind of larger military conflict. That, I gotta be honest, I don't know how that ends anything other than some kind of nuclear conflict. How? Play it out. What do you think is going to take place? Do you believe that they're going to have a ground war? And if they have a ground war, who do you believe is going to win that particular ground war? And do you believe it matters who wins the ground war? Assume Russia wins. Assume America wins. What is the last effort? What is the last result? Somebody punches you, you fall back, you're losing, you pull your gun. They're going to pull their weapons. I mean, they're even right now talking about smaller nukes. They want to make nuclear weapons more usable. It's fucking amazing. So when I'm saying, this turns into something nasty, this is not hyperbolic rhetoric, as some people would say. No, that's a big fucking deal. And if the person who you were supporting in that last presidential election would have gotten us closer to this point, meaning earlier on in the term, we would have already hit this point, potentially. Because, again, this is some kind of fictional scenario. But based on military policy of the last president, of the person who they wanted to take that office, and seeing as she was advocating to put a missile defense shield in this country, and that she's even advocated that she was more boisterous on foreign policy than Obama was, it is easily to foresee that that would have taken place, which means that we would have been ensconced in this very particular scenario that much earlier with somebody who had been screaming that Russia had hacked the election in some way. It's fucking amazing. I've heard people go after Jimmy Dore saying that, Jimmy Dore has some kind of mythical scenario of the Supreme Court and said, hey, they were lying about his position on that. It's like, Jimmy Dore said this, like, no, Jimmy Dore never said that. And if you have to lie about it, you probably don't have a good point. That's the first point. Second point, the argument is, you should have voted for DACA because, Hillary Clinton would have done something on DACA. And in the same breath, Jimmy Dore is talking about fictional scenarios. Jimmy Dore doesn't know what he's talking about. This is amazing because there's a level of hypocrisy built into the conversation. Jimmy Dore is talking about a fictional scenario in the same way that they are talking about a fictional scenario. Saying that you should have voted for Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton would have done something on DACA is a fictional scenario. It's a fictional scenario. There's rumor, not WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks came out with this thing saying that at the very least she was looking at putting a Texas Republican on the Supreme Court bench. So in your fictional scenario, you know for certain that Hillary Clinton was going to do something better on DACA. You don't know that. That's a fictional scenario. But at the same time, they attacked Jimmy Dore. They were like, Jimmy Dore is thinking of a fictional scenario with the Supreme Court thing, while I think of a fictional scenario with this DACA stuff. Okay. It's possible Hillary Clinton would put somebody on the Supreme Court that would have been better. I would hope so. Would Merrick Garland have been better than Scalia? Yes. Yeah. But do you know for certain that the person she put on that bench would toe your agenda, whatever that agenda is? You do not. That is a fictional scenario. If Jimmy Dore can't think of conceptions, then you can't think of conceptions easy. You can't be a fucking hypocrite. Let's see. Who's here? Somebody says first. Let's see. The Dutch guy. We had backdoors back then, and gatekeepers were very expensive, highly educated, career diplomats on both sides. Now, since George Bush Jr., the United States is not having any of these individuals. Yeah, it's terrifying. That scares the shit out of me. I don't know if this is because look, at some certain points in life, I get to the point where I get extraordinarily single-minded or whatever I'm doing. I went through this phase of being extraordinarily single-minded on just history stuff. And you're like delving into it, and you're like, oh my God, this is fucking fascinating. Like, you're just involved. You're like, but by the same token, you look at certain contours where you're like, okay, this is something that's repeating itself, this is something that's slightly different. But the things that they repeat, or the things that kind of rhyme in the way that history goes about it, those are things where you're like, okay, this looks bad. This looks extraordinarily bad. And it looks bad in a way where you don't feel like there's any gatekeeper, like you said, there's anybody at the door, or there's anybody, there's an adult in the room. Let me say it that way. It doesn't feel like there's an adult in the room. I don't have this Jack Kennedy feeling of, well, the president's got it. The president was a reality show host a year ago. The president was a reality show host. Let that shit sink in. And that's the guy who's trying to deal with the shit that's taking place on the international stage. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah, yes. Audio's not good. What's wrong with the idea? A bad boyfriend who doesn't want to go away, narcissism. Triana be fine, yeah. Oh, there's a static. That's what you guys were saying. Let's see. Don't know what the static will be. Yeah, I don't know what the static will be. I'll try to find it and fix it on the next one, guys. Let's see. Hawaii was an accidental, like 9/11. There had been a warning, just until generals at Pearl Harbor. Tabitha Enriquez. You know, it's funny, and many of we used to be anti-war. Like that fucking blows my mind. At one point, the country was anti-war, so anti-war that they did not want FDR to get into the World War II. Despite FDR apparently wanting to be in World War II, he looked at it as a threat and something that needed to take place. Tabitha, I guess my point is, if you really wanted it to take place, and I'm not saying he wanted Pearl Harbor to be bombed, but did he want Pearl Harbor to be bombed? Like, just understand what's taking place. Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, and Japan has this weird alliance with Germany. I mean, I say weird alliance because Germany looked at them as subhumans, so there's that. But yeah, he has this odd alliance with thing, and they're not even working together in the sense of a war, like a larger conflict. I mean, Germany didn't want to be bothered with him, but honoring the conflict, at least honoring this particular conflict, for whatever reason, Adolf Hitler declares war immediately on the United States. So Pearl Harbor happens. FDR is a day that will live in infamy. Dude, one of those numbers. And Hitler comes out, we declare war on America. It's like, and people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you declaring war on America? America has just passed, essentially America is out this war for all intents and purposes. And yes, America has just cause to go after Japan. What does that have to do with Germany? This was a horrible choice by Adolf Hitler on this one. Why are you fucking around with America on this? But yeah, he declared war immediately, which allowed FDR to get involved into the war. But let's not pretend that FDR did not want to get into that war. I guess to speak to your point is he knew they were going to bomb something, meaning he knew that Pearl Harbor was potentially going to be hit. Yeah, maybe I can't say it. I mean, I can't say it's not the case. I can't say it's not the case. K4, America is conducting military operations all over the world. That's a world war. Yeah, it's a little weird, man. It's a little weird. MT Union, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery done by ourselves, get free our minds. Bob Marley, Rasta poet. Right on, man. This is not about Trump. They have been ramping up this for a while under Obama and Hillary Clinton. Tabitha Enriquez. Yeah, look, you must understand. It's not that I think it's about Trump. It's the issue is competence. It's a reality show host. Like I can't. It's like he's a reality show host. That's problematic, man. Particularly when you're talking about these like military-esque things that can literally pull you into a larger conflict. Like, yeah, that's all I mean. It's not that I think that the world fell off a cliff when Trump took office. I don't think that at all. And yeah, they've been getting us more ensconced in Syria, meaning this kind of bravado that America takes on. Like, we've won, we've dominated it all, everybody else can go fuck themselves. We can do whatever we want. That's problematic. That's going to bring you into a larger conflict. Just regardless of the perspective itself, the point of view itself. Like, and to show you how ensconced this is, by the way, this is Cenk Uygur to have an argument and say that America bombing somebody is not that big of a deal. It's mind-blowing. This guy's supposed to be on the left, and he's saying America using his power to bash in something in somebody else's country is not that big of a deal. I bet if somebody kicked his dog, he'd have some feelings about that. I mean, hey man, it's just a dog. Somebody knocked his gate down, I bet he'd have some feelings with it. But at this point, he doesn't even understand the feelings of somebody else in another nation where that nation is being bombed. He completely ignores how they take what's taking place. That's amazing, particularly from the perspective of the left. But I'm saying that's ensconced in that perspective, or in our perspective of things. We don't care how they take it. We're doing it. And I'm saying that brings you into conflict. The rest of the world is not going to take your perspective as being completely valid on this. They're not just going to agree that you can do whatever the fuck you want. I'm not going to get that agreement. We need to bring our troops home. We have no business in the Middle East. Let Israel fight its own wars. No more American blood spilled. Linda Burns, yes, agreed. Agreed. Bring them home. Bring them home. We can cut the military budget in half, find money to use that other half of the money to jobs and infrastructure and all this other stuff. Yeah. Fucking A. Fucking A. The United States is not only the strongest, but also the most terrified country. Leo Trotsky, MC Unit. You know, it's listen to that congressional testimony. I'll try to find it. It's a congressional report, and he's scared of everything. Like you listen to that, and you think the fucking sky is falling. These guys are after us. Those guys are after us. Those guys are after us. Everybody's after us. We need more money. Give us more cash. China's going to watch and pick up the economic pieces. We're fucking ourselves over, man. They need something to beef up United States patriotism. I got to be honest. I don't think the American people are just okay with war. Like, I think if you ask them, and I honestly believe this, one of the things that got Trump elected was it sounded like he wasn't insane on the point of war. Like, it sounded like, look, I don't want to get into this conflict with Russia. I need to bring us off the brink. And Democrats are like, this guy is a Putin lover. This guy's a Putin lover. I mean, is this what this? Oh. And they're using this as a political argument at this point, of a political stunt to say, we're going to position him, just from a political context, political standpoint, purely for political ends. We're positioning this entire country, meaning media and all, against him on this one main focal point of Russia. And we're doing so because we don't want to talk about our failings. That's immensely dangerous. That is profoundly dangerous. We are inventing the new enemy now. Yeah. The dramatic Jimmy Carter was the last decent president, and he says the United States is not a democracy anymore. Depends on what you mean by decent, but yeah, I like Jimmy Carter. Easy cheesy. Jamal, it's not above clickbaiting and fear mongering. That is such a thing as posture. Not every posture leads to pugilism. I don't think this is clickbait. I mean, what am I missing? I don't think this is clickbait. I disagree on this one. I am being hyperbolic, yes, but I'm being hyperbolic because, look, what is the point that you believe you trip over a line where you can't necessarily come back from? And where in that point do you place things? Meaning, what is your threat detection? Like, what is your thing where you're like, okay, this is going to lead to a larger conflict, this is going to lead to a larger problem. Where is that line for you? Because I got to be honest, I think we're pretty close to that line. That's why I made the title, World War III. What else would it be? If the United States shoots down a Russian jet, if Russia attacks some armaments in the United States, what do you think takes place at that point? That's not even a proxy war. That's not even a Cold War. That's a hot war at that point. Do you believe that the United States is going to be attacked by Russia and back away from the situation? Is Donald Trump going to emasculate himself and back away? Is Putin going to emasculate himself and back away? Who's going to be the one to get face or to save face? What I'm asking you is, we have forces in 70% of the goddamn world, and those are the forces that we know about. The United States right now is illegally in another country, in a lot of countries, but in Syria specifically. We've just killed 100 Syrians. Mind you, they were terrorists that was attacking their government. They attacked that. The United States attacks protecting the terrorists, kills 100 Syrians. If there are Russians in the mix of those people who were killed, say for the moment that those Syrians were able to get off enough information so the air forces can come and help in that raid, and it was Russian forces that after the 100 Syrians were killed, those forces that killed those Syrians were also destroyed, meaning those American forces. Are you telling me that that is beyond the realm of your thinking? Like, if that's beyond the realm of your thinking, we're fucked. We're fucked. Because you're, for all intents and purposes, saying there is no potential for a war. That is literally the pretext for a hot war. We were one move off. Meaning, if Russia engaged in what was taking place, that would have been a hot war. That would have been a hot war. I don't understand what I'm missing here. How is that not World War III? Where do you think the battle lines would be drawn in this case? Do you think Russia would be fighting this war alone? Do you think America would be fighting this war alone? I would almost wager that China would be a part of this mix. I would wager that Iran, Syria, North Korea would be part of this mix. That sounds like a world war to me. What am I missing? What am I missing? Hell, add Turkey in, potentially. Pakistan. All the countries that they feel fucked over about what the United States policies has been. You may get some countries in Europe, but at the end of the day, what you're talking about is a world war. Nuclear powers, mind you. I think Carter's neoliberalism was mostly unintentional, Kfar. Maybe, yeah. I gotta be honest. I know some people hit Carter on this. For whatever reason, I don't have hard feelings against Carter. And it's probably because I don't know everything that Carter did. But easy cheesy. He's a blushing version when it comes to geopolitical strategies. Progressive thinks China should do whatever they want. I don't understand how people are mad at China and they're capitalists. Capitalists. China is just doing capitalism in a different way. In a way that I fear is probably going to come to the States. It's going to come to the States. But we'll see. If Trump is just childish, would you let a child control nukes, Vegematic, or would you give that child another $180 billion in military spending? Yeah, agreed. Progressives are not patriots for sure. It depends. It depends. I mean, it depends on what you mean by patriots. Do I want my cousin going into a military conflict that I think is fucking ridiculous as conflict and it's purely driven by the government that's in charge? No. If that's what you mean by patriotism. Murdering or getting killed abroad is not patriotism. It's not patriotism. Patriotism is just a word that they make up to leverage people's bravery to go out and get killed or kill for the ends of people who are in power. It's not real. It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. It's just a word. People feel like they're like, oh yes, I'm ginned up by this country and all this other stuff. Bare bones to it. Get down to the nitty gritty of it. Like, this is going to be a weird example, but it's like sex to some degree. It's like you can put all the flowering on it you want. You can use all the lyrics that you want to make this thing seem this kind of amazing and epic and glorious experience. And the moon and the stars are going to shake. And we're going to be rattling the car and all this other stuff and make it seem sexy or whatever. At the end of the day, a man is putting his penis in a woman's vagina. They can make up all these glorious tales about patriotism all they want. At the end of the day, you're going somewhere to kill or murder for your country. Or be killed for your country. If you're going to do that, if they're going to leverage your bravery in this way, if you feel you need to use your bravery in this way, should you at the very least ask whether or not this is something that should be taking place? Fuck, man, you're giving your life for it. Shouldn't it matter whether or not that what you're doing is right? Doesn't matter. I think you should. Patriotism doesn't exist. And by the way, it's one thing if they're barbarians at our gates. If our gates are being assailed, I am on that line with you. Fair enough. Our gates are not being assailed. We are the aggressors. We are the aggressors. So, yeah. I've heard multiple Hillary voters say they would become complacent and not be politically active or aware recently if it were for Trump's victory. Oh, fuck yeah. Of course. Of course. Those people go to sleep. People will totally go to sleep. You should support whatever is good. If the situation is detrimental to humanity, don't be a patriot, be a critical thinker. Kfar, yes, great. Don't be robots. It's the weirdest thing, man. When people get into the military, they go robots. Like the stuff they would say. I was like, yeah, we're supporting George Bush because he's the president and blah, blah, blah. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or we think Mitt Romney would be an awesome president. In what context? Like, what are you talking about? You mean in the context of him doing the exact same thing that Obama was doing? Yes, we think he'll be also president. Some of the shit they say is amazing. Only when they get out do they start questioning that stuff. Only when they get out. Easy, really, the why don't you lead talking point? I don't understand. Somebody said, why don't you go to Iraq? Easy. I've told people for years, Heaven Dynasty. We're totally on the same boat there. Loving and hating history. China has always been on my radar. You know, the wild part about it is they were, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, when they were putting it together, they were isolating China and Russia in the way that they were trying to carve the world into two parts. That by itself seems, people can trade, I guess, with whoever they want, but they were trying this kind of economic domination of China in the way that they were going about it. So, all right, I am not going to keep this one long. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with sound. That being said, come on. Yeah, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with sound, and I will be back probably in 15 minutes or so. All right, guys. I'll see you. Thanks.